All right, many thanks, Melissa Bell in the newsroom. Korea watchers insist that it's only rhetoric, it's just saber rattling. But over the past 2 weeks, each new day brings a new barrage of hostility.
조선 아시아 태평양 평화위원회는 서울을 비롯하여 남조선에 있는 모든 외국 기관들과 기업들, 관광객들을 포함한 외국인들이 신변 안전을 위해 사전에 대피 및 소개 대책을 세워야 할 것이라는 것을 알린다.
That warning to evacuate, no laughing matter to the Japanese, who this Tuesday rolled out missile defense batteries in the gardens of the Defense Ministry in Tokyo. North Korea's new leader, not only ratcheting up the rhetoric, he's also recalled all his workers from a joint industrial complex. That's an unprecedented move, enough to draw veiled criticism from Pyongyang's only nominal ally in the region, China, and its new president. So how should Seoul and Washington handle a new leader we know so little about? Even Kim Jong-un's exact age is up for discussion. Today in the France 24 debate, Kim keeps the world guessing. With us to talk about it, he's a man who divides his time between three places, Paris, Seoul, and Beijing. We want to welcome Antoine Bondaz, visiting fellow at the IRII, Center of Korea University, and preparing a dissertation for Sciences Po, the French Political Science Institute, on relations between North Korea and China. Thank you for being with us. Thanks as well to, he's both a political scientist and also a blogger, Alexandre del Valle. Thank you for being with us. Joining us, retired General Jean-Vincent Brisset of the French international policy think tank IRII. He is in the French Mediterranean town of Gigean. Thank you for being with us. And from Washington, GU of the Republican-leaning lobbying group DCI. Welcome back to the France 24 debate. The France 24 debate, where you can always join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Now, this Tuesday, the warning by North Korea to all foreign company and tourists in South Korea to evacuate, and this further stoking fears at this point. The deadline is today. Seoul's worried there could be a launch of a medium-range missile ahead of the April 15th anniversary of the birthday of the country's founder, the grandfather of the current leader, Kim Il-sung. How plausible is that there could be some kind of spectacular missile launch?
Actually, it's highly possible to have a new launch. You got like 2 last year's ballistic missiles. This one could be like a little bit different. It would not be a ballistic missile. It would be like more like a short-range missile. It's more like 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers. It would be once again
3,000 to 4,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
So how far could that go?
It could maybe to Guam, but it would not be directed to Guam. It should stay actually in the Yellow Sea. The thing is that it's just a new way of provoking the international community, just as they did in the last weeks.
How are you so sure that they're not going to point it at someone or something?
Because they have no interest to do it. They have no interest in attacking directly the South Korean territory or the US territory, because the retaliation against their territory would be like total.
Help us out here with this map that we're showing up on the screen a minute ago. Maybe we could show it once more. It shows the different possibilities there of the various missiles. How many missiles do they have that can go in that sort of that area you say that touches Guam, number 2 there on the map?
Actually, we don't really know. That's the big issue. The second big issue is, are their missiles operational? Can they reach the targets? Because it's nice to have missiles, but then the question is like, can you reach the targets you're targeting? Like, can you reach, for example, the United States? And we know that it's almost impossible today for Pyongyang to reach the US mainland. Almost impossible.
General Brisset, what's your prediction of what's going to happen, again, in the build-up to that April 15th date?
The Musudan missiles that are supposed to be launched, maybe, are not known to be operational up to now. They are, in certain sense, ballistic missiles, intermediate-range ballistic missiles. And that's the only thing that can go further than 1,000 kilometers in the North Korea arsenal. What some people call ballistic missiles they tried last December are Taepodong. They are not really ballistic missiles since they are not supposed to be operational. They are just a join up of some missiles. It's something, the technology we used to launch our satellites in the early 60s in France. So it's the transformation from that to a properly ballistic missile needs lots of improvement, and going from liquid fuel to solid fuel and things like that, they are far from using that as a missile. Then the second is the load you put at the end of the missile. And the load, nuclear load, needs to be rather light. I don't think North Korea has light nuclear devices. Even I'm not that sure that North Korea had proper nuclear loads.
Not quite sure that North Korea has nuclear loads, but it's nonetheless stoking worries, and not just on the Korean peninsula, that those threats are being taken seriously. Across the Sea of Japan, Tokyo, this Tuesday, saying that it is taking no chances.
It's here in the gardens of Japan's defense ministry that the 2 Patriot missile launchers have been installed. In the event of a North Korean attack, they should be able to intercept any missiles fired. The citizens of Tokyo, though, are divided on the deployment of such an arsenal in the heart of the Japanese capital.
If they launch one of these missiles, there is sure to be damage of some sort. It doesn't reassure me one bit.
I think that deploying this anti-missile shield is the right response. North Korea looks like it's showboating.
It's an act of showboating that doesn't impress Japan's government. The Prime Minister is taking the North Korean threat very seriously. Early last week, Pyongyang deployed 2 Musudan rocket launchers on North Korea's east coast, capable of attacking Japan. In response, Tokyo has put naval destroyers on alert in the Sea of Japan and intends to permanently install Patriot missiles on the island of Okinawa to the south of the archipelago.
The government will spare no effort to protect our people's lives and ensure their safety. North Korea still continues with its provocative actions against the international community. For the moment, the most important thing is to implement the sanctions approved by Security Council resolutions.
These UN measures taken in response to the 3rd North Korean nuclear test in February have angered Pyongyang, which has since responded with a series of belligerent pronouncements. On Tuesday, it said there was a risk of thermonuclear war on the Korean peninsula.
GU in Washington, what's your reaction to Tokyo's reaction to what's going on in North Korea?
I think Tokyo's reaction is very much justified, because if the way I look at it, between Seoul and Tokyo, I think Tokyo is a much likely. If we go with the scenario that North Korea is trying to provoke the international community by actually attacking or come really close to attacking a foreign city, I think Tokyo is a much more likely target than Seoul, because people in Seoul, many of them are relatives to people in North Korea. They share kinship, whereas the North Korean mentality to Japan is a lot more hostile. So I think it's understandable that Tokyo is more nervous than Seoul right now.
Tokyo more nervous than Seoul. Alexandre Del Valle, we see you heard in that report the new Prime Minister of Japan. So you've got a new leader in Japan, new leader in China, new leader in North Korea, new leader in South Korea. What do you think of all that?
I think it's why we are seeing a theater strategy from the president of North Korea. He needs to legitimize his power, and politics is much more theater than tactics for him. It's important to distract the people from the real horrible issues, the famine and internal problem. Then in the framework of those new leaders and new regional order, he needs to improve his position and his legitimacy, also for internal reasons, because he was quite fragile before, and now he's becoming more and more hardline supporter and well seen by the population, because this anti-Western strategy is the legitimacy of the nation. It's all the nation is based on this, on the anti-Western, anti-capitalist. It's logical in this framework.
Okay, so a lot of it for domestic consumption. We'll get back to that point in a moment. But first, let me just, again, Antoine Bondaz, we were looking earlier at the map of missiles. When I look at the map in that report of the Sea of Japan, and you see China, and they've had issues with Japan over those disputed islands. You see how close the Korean peninsula is. That's a crowded place, isn't it, these days?
It is. It is a very crowded place, and that's why actually Xi Jinping said in his speech on Sunday at the Powwow Forum, he explained that Asia was not like the biggest region in the world, the most dynamic region in the world, and that nobody could afford to destabilize it. So that's why North Korea actually is not going to bomb Japan, is not going to bomb South Korea, and is not going to bomb China. They have no interest in doing so. And as actually Xi Jinping say, and as the government official in China always say, war and chaos on the Korean peninsula and in the regions are in no one's interest.
We can hear Xi Jinping. It was last Sunday, an economic conference in Hainan province, and this was really a veiled warning to the North Koreans.
No one should be allowed to throw the region or even the whole world into chaos for selfish gains.
Now, also on Sunday, though, U.S. Republican Senator John McCain on one of the chat shows in America accusing Beijing of perhaps not doing enough.
Does hold the key to this problem. China can cut off their economy if they want to. Chinese behavior has been very disappointing, whether it be on cybersecurity, whether it be on confrontation in the South China Sea, or whether their failure to rein in what could be a catastrophic situation, which more than once wars have started by accident, and this is a very serious situation.
Gigean, do you agree that China could rein in North Korea and doesn't?
To a certain extent. I think a lot of political observers in the U.S. tend to exaggerate the power that China has over North Korea. Need I remind everybody, the Chinese relationship with North Korea has gone through many ups and downs. I was in North Korea in 2004, and that was a more rosy period between China and North Korea. And I visited this friendship monument that's built to kind of commemorate a good relationship between the two, and you can still see the ruins that's next to the monument. That's because it was once destroyed when the two countries are not feeling very friendly towards each other. I think China traditionally has not been very skillful in dealing with its neighbors in terms of coercing them into adopting certain behaviors, and I think it's also not in China's interest to completely obey the wishes of Washington. I think we need to be realistic when we look at influence of China. Yes, China is a very important piece in this game of brinksmanship with North Korea, but I think we also need to be realistic on the role of China. And I think for President Xi Jinping to come out in Hainan to issue that kind of warning to North Korea, I think that was already pretty extraordinary in terms of policy behaviors in China towards North Korea in the past.
Alexandre, were you also surprised by Xi Jinping's statement?
No, because Kim Jong-un is is giving a fantastic justification for American encirclement, a so-called encirclement from, you know, the Chinese heartland in geostrategy. She feels encircled by US allies and American base, and he is giving a fantastic justification. Then China has absolutely no interest to support not North Korea, but this strategy. This Northern Korean strategy is absolutely not good, not satisfying for China. Then I think that China would like to get rid of not him, but its strategy, but it cannot, because we exaggerate the role and the power of control of China over North Korea.
General Brisset, of course, China's position when it comes to North Korea is always going to be a little ambiguous. After all, if the regime there falls and there's reunification like there was in Germany, does China lose an ally?
Well, it's not properly an ally. You know, the relation has been very good for years in the 50s, in the 60s. Then it changed lots. And there is no technical relations between the North Korean army and the Chinese army. There is no exchange, so they are not, properly speaking, allies. And since the late 80s, since Seoul Olympic Games, the distance between the militaries have been increasing. There are no sales of important military equipments to North Korea from China. And I don't think China will go at war for North Korea. The problem is that if there is a reunification, as you say, that means that there will be an ally of the US just at the Chinese border. And that's what the Chinese are fearing a little more.
Antoine, Bondaz?
Something must be said first is that China has some leverages on Pyongyang. But of course, for example, China could overthrow the regime in few weeks if they cut all the exchanges through the borders. So that's why, like in Seoul, many diplomats used to say that China has a toolbox, but there is only one tool. It's a big hammer. You can overthrow the regime, it will be the complete collapse of the state, but what will happen next? So the question is, like, in case of reunification, what could be the position of China? In the WikiLeaks, we discovered that China was not opposed to the reunification, but China has never been officially opposed to the reunification. The only question is, what kind of guarantees can China get that this kind of reunification will not go against her interests? For example, with no US bases in what's called before North Korea. For example, for China to keep her economic interests, for China to keep some infrastructures in North Korea, like the Nasan harbor on the.
All right, so
border,
China's worries about the long-term future.
Yes.
For now, though, the eye is on what's going on inside of Pyongyang, and we'll try to figure it out a little bit when we come back in the France 24 debate.